This is my spine testing jig. I'm testing the spine of the flight arrows. Now there's two ways of measuring spine, one of which is more sensible than the other. The AMO, or American way, basically just measures deflection. So the more the deflection of the arrow, the weaker it is. So the bigger the number, the weaker the arrow, which is a bit bloody silly. Whereas the old-fashioned way is you divide the distance between the supports by the deflection. So say you've got 28 inches and 1 inch deflection, 28 divided by 1 would be 28 spine. If the deflection was half an inch, 28 divided by a half is 56. So less deflection is a higher number, which is stiffer, which makes sense. It also accounts for you changing the distance between the supports to suit different length arrows. So if you've got a short flight arrow and you don't want 28 inches between the supports, you can have something else. Like I go with 2 foot, because despite it being a 31 inch flight arrow, at the start of the draw, the angle between the string line and the nose of the arrow, which is slightly sideways due to the thick grip, that angle is much less than as you approach loose and the nose has to deflect around the shaft. I think most of the deflection is in the latter half of the stroke. So I use a shorter distance, I support the arrow at that end, and then I hang my carefully calibrated 2 pound weight on it. They all seem to use a 2 pound weight, or in this case a bag of stones which has been carefully calibrated. The calibrations I've done by calculation, but that works out 70 pound, well 70 spine, which is notionally 70 pounds. And it's going to get shot from a 120 pound warbow. Oh dear, that's a bit weak, you'll say, but not really, because the point is so light, there's very little resistance to the acceleration of the arrow. And I think we've shot sort of 40-50 spine arrows from heavy warbows with no problem. Anyhow, it's a very simple jig to make, because it's just some bent wire coat hangers like that, and you can change the scale length and the leverage by adjusting this to suit. You can weigh your own 2 pound bag of stones. So that one was 70. Let's try another one. Let's try number 312. 31 being the length in inches, 2 being the fact that it's number 2. Hang the weight on. Oh, that one's stiffer. That's between 70 and 90. We'll call that 80. 80 spine. Let's have a look at number 3. Yep, 313. And other people will have different views on flight arrows and spine and the rest of it. So if you disagree with me, that's fine. You do what you want. I'm just showing you what I do. Oh, that one's nearly not, well, no, just over 80. Call it, I don't know, call it 82 for the hell of it. And last but not least, the refurbished one, which used to be, I think it used to be a 30 inch arrow. Whoa, that's way down, that's about 60. So it'll be interesting to see how that flies. Also interesting, we've got spine varying between 60 and about 82. So we'll be able to work out, you know, which performs best, because it's not always obvious. Anyhow, that's enough from me about spine. Bye bye, boys and girls. I had a question about arrow making. Not my favourite thing, but the best tip's probably get hold of a set of 3, or at least one decent fletching jig. I use one that I made myself many years ago before I had any money to spend, but it's quite easily made out of some bent alley. The spring is just the centre off an old bulldog clip. It works well for flight arrows because they're tapered. It doesn't sit truly horizontal across there, but I can shim out these rests to tilt the arrow up or down, then lay a ruler along the top and make sure it lines up with the tip of the arrow. The worst bit of it is this clamping arrangement that's supposed to grip the nock. Very difficult to invent a decent one, and with skinny flight arrows I end up binding the back of them with masking tape and jamming them in there. Or I've used this before, which is a cable gland. You put that on, tighten the nut onto the back, and of course, having 6 flat faces, you can use alternate points as a guide to where the fletchings go. So the sort of thing you can make up yourself. There's one just made up out of MDF. You see I've shimmed out the rests again. That's a big fat 3/8 inch arrows, you know, war bow arrows, and I can use the same grip on that. A variety of flights and what have you. Oh, that's the top of my grommet. Another good tip, you could spend a fortune on fancy special fletching adhesives. This is Yoo-hoo glue. It's £1 from Poundland. If you apply very thin bead along the quill side of the feather, touch it up against the shaft, pull it away, count to 30, push it back. Yeah, it'll take half an hour to go off good and hard. But if you're in a hurry, use something better. I've tried super glue before, and sometimes it sticks brilliantly, sometimes it just doesn't stick at all. Another base for the fletching jig. That's obviously another bit of a grommet. That's about it. One of my other drawers contains... No. That's some more... Oh yeah, I think they're smaller fletchings for crossbow bolts. There's my piles, different sizes of piles, assorted odds and sods. I use a decent quality standard araldite for gluing piles on, because the rapid stuff tends to crack. But good tip, another good tip, degrease your points, because they'll have been machined up on a lathe of some sort. Just a little bit of methylated spirits. Methylated spirits. Dip a bit of paper towel into your mess, just wipe it around the inside of the hole. It'll ensure a good, well stuck on pile. That's about it really, I think. Oh yes, the other tip. This is more important if you're cutting fletchings yourself. So for a flight arrow, I'll cut them from goose feathers. But sometimes when you buy a fletching, the quill section is very thick. If you just hold it like that and put it very lightly onto a belt sander, you can grind away the excess. Terms and conditions apply. It will adjust your fingernails and the tips of your fingers for you if you're not careful. But it's like everything. If you're being really fussy, which you need to be when you're making a flight arrow, then you've got to have the attention to detail.